Welcome to today's webinar titled The Uniform Services Blended Retirement System. We are thrilled to have Andy Corso and Kim Myers with us today. Andy Corso is Assistant Director for Military Compensation within the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. His specific duties include overseeing military retired and annuity pay. As such, Mr. Corso is the Department of Defense project lead for the implementation of the new blended retirement system. In addition to his civil career with DoD, Mr. Corso is also a service warfare officer in the Navy Reserve. Ms. Kim Myers is the Outreach and Public Affairs Specialist for Financial Readiness. She is responsible for planning and execution of education efforts related to financial literacy for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Without further delay, I will turn things over to Andy and Kim.
Thank you, Stan. This is Andy Corso, and I'm joined by Kim Myers. Before we begin today's discussion about the blended retirement system, I'm going to read the disclaimer that's on the first slide. The appearance of hyperlinks in this brief does not constitute endorsement by the Department of Defense of this website or the information, products, or services contained therein for other than authorized activities such as military exchanges and morale, welfare, and recreation sites. The Department of Defense does not exercise any editorial control over the information you may find at these locations. Such links are provided consistent with the stated purpose of this Department of Defense-sponsored webinar. So as Stan indicated, we are here today to talk to you about the implementation of the blended retirement system. As he indicated, I'm with the office that's overseeing the implementation of the blended retirement, and Kim, who's with me as well, is with the office that's overseeing the education and training aspects of blended retirement. So to kick off the brief, I think the most important thing to talk about right at the outset when we're discussing blended retirement is understanding how it differs from the current retirement system. So as you see on the current slide we're looking at, we're going to compare the legacy retirement system, which is often referred to as the High 3 retirement system for most of those of us who are covered by the High 3 retirement system. The legacy retirement system is based on the average of a service member's highest 3 years of pay. So any service member who completes at least 20 years of qualifying service is then eligible to receive a monthly retired pay. As you can see here, you have to serve at least 20 years. If you don't serve 20 years or meet the requirements for eligibility for that monthly retired pay, you leave the service without any retirement benefit. So that is, in essence, the drawback to the current legacy retirement system is that, as you see on the slide, only about 19% of our current service members ever qualify for retirement through their military service. And that number varies based on when we look at active populations versus reserve populations, and when we look at different services have different rates. But on average, from year to year, it's about 19% of any group of entering service members will ultimately make it to 20 years and qualify for a retirement system. So then you see at the bottom of the slide, when we talk about the blended retirement system, which I should have said at the outset, was enacted in last year's National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2016. And we'll talk a little bit more about the implementation as we move forward, but it's going to go into effect in 2018. So we're still early on in the process of implementing that, but we're going to talk through the various components of blended retirement, compare it to the current retirement system, talk about eligibility and a few other aspects of BRS, and then take questions. So when we talk about blended retirement system, the new BRS combines the legacy 20-year military retirement system with a defined contribution plan that's known as the Thrift Savings Plan, or TSP, which many of you may already be familiar with and many of you are also probably contributing to. But what's different about the blended retirement system from the legacy retirement system is it combines not just a monthly retirement annuity or a pension after you retire. It combines it with the TSP so that you get the returns on investments through the TSP, and those two are blended together into a retirement system that combines both components, both a defined contribution and a defined benefit system. So those 5 little arrows you see on the slide represent the 5 major areas of blended retirement system that are blended in the system. And we're going to talk about each of those in a little bit more detail. But up at the top, when we look at legacy retirement system, when we're calculating what the retirement annuity is for a person who's covered by the current legacy retirement system, It's based on a formula. It's 2.5% times the number of years a member has served times their retired pay base. But under the blended retirement system, as you see on the slide, the formula for that retirement is reduced to 2% times the number of years that member has served times their retired base pay. So that's, in essence, the trade-off under blended retirement, is that the multiplier goes from 2.5 to 2.0%. The positive side of blended retirement system, you look at the bottom there, you see 85% of all service members will get retirement benefits, as compared to 19% on the current retirement system. So we see quite a bit of expansion on the number of people who will leave the service, whether they serve for 4 years or they serve for 20 years. They'll leave the service with some benefits toward retirement. So any service member who leaves after just 2 years will keep any TSP earnings, savings, as well as the DoD contributions and any earnings they earn on that. That is different than under the legacy retirement system, where it's essentially an all-or-nothing system, or a cliff-vested system, as is often called. You serve for 20 years and you'll receive retirement for life. If you don't serve for 20 years, you leave that service without any direct retirement benefits from the government. So right up front, we want to talk about who is affected by the blended retirement system, because we understand that not everybody is going to be directly impacted by it. And it varies, so it's important to pay attention up front as to who is affected. So as I said early on, blended retirement goes into effect on January 1st, 2018. So a lot of the eligibility is based on the date of December 31st, 2017, which is the date prior. So any member who is serving as of December 31st, 2017 will be grandfathered under their current retirement system or their legacy retirement system. And the point to emphasize here is that nobody will be automatically moved to the blended retirement system. If you're currently serving, you will be grandfathered in your current retirement plan and stay covered under that retirement plan. But many currently serving members will be eligible to opt into the blended retirement system. Those who joined before 2006 and members of the reserve component with fewer than 4,320. Let me restate that sentence. Those who joined before 2006 and members of the reserve component with more than 4,320 retirement points will remain under their legacy retirement system, and they won't be able to move. But some service members will have a choice to make. Active component service members who joined after 2006 and have fewer than 12 years of service as of December 31st, 2017, and any reservists with fewer than 4,320 retirement points as of December 31st, 2017, will have the choice of whether to stay with their legacy retirement system or opt into the new blended retirement system. Eligible members will have all of the calendar year of 2018 to make their decision. If they want to stay covered under their current retirement system, they do nothing. But if they decide that the blended retirement system is better for them, then they can opt in. And of course, any new accession to the service after January 1st, 2018 will be automatically covered by the blended retirement system. So throughout the course of this presentation, where we're talking about comparing one system and another, we're generally talking about the comparisons for those who are currently serving and will have a choice to make. After 2018, blended retirement system will become the retirement system for the military, and all new entrants will be covered under it. So let's take a little more detailed look at the blended retirement system. It includes 4 different major components, and I'm going to talk about each one in their order as you see on the slide. The first is the defined benefit, which we talked a little bit about earlier. In order to receive a defined benefit, which is a monthly annuity for the remainder of a service member's life, they do have to serve the minimum of 20 creditable years in most cases. That pension is based on the formula that you see at the top of the slide, 2% times the number of years of service, times the average of the highest 36 months of basic pay for that member, and that results in a monthly retired paycheck for that member. There's also a note there about non-regular retirement, which applies specifically to our reserve component members. The retirement age under the blended retirement system remains age 60 or earlier for those service members with some creditable act of service that reduces their retirement age. So it's important to note for reservists that the blended retirement system does not change the age at which you will be eligible to receive retired pay. The second component of BRS is the defined contribution through the Thrift Savings Plan. All service members joining after January 2018 will be automatically enrolled in TSP at 3% of their base pay, with 1% DoD contributions starting after 60 days and DoD matching contributions up to 4% that'll start at the beginning of their 3rd year of service. Both those automatic 1% and those matching contributions will continue throughout the service members' careers until they reach 26 years of service. But it's an important note to mention here, and it's written on the screen as well. Current service members who opt into the new blended retirement system in the calendar year 2018 will receive those automatic and matching contributions the first pay period after they elect to opt into a blended retirement system. So for those who are part of our opt-in population, they won't necessarily have to wait the 60 days or 2 years in order to begin receiving those contributions. So that starts right away for them. In the bottom left of the screen, you see the block on continuation pay. Continuation pay was designed as a way to encourage service members to continue serving in the uniformed services, just to make sure that there is not a loss of retention of key skills at those critical points in the career, which generally is the middle of a career between, say, 10 and 12 years of service. The continuation pay requires a service member to agree to continue serving at that point in exchange for a bonus incentive pay at the 12-year point of service. And those pays will vary based on services, they'll vary based on career skills, but the law sets the minimum for continuation pay for active component members at 2.5 times the monthly basic pay and a half month for reserve component members. Now, those rates of continuation pay can fluctuate upwards all the way to 13 months worth of pay for an active member and up to 6 months of pay for a reserve member. The fourth component of blended retirement system that's important to discuss here is the lump sum option. The lump sum option gives their service members choices at retirement. They can choose to either elect a 25% or a 50% lump sum payment at retirement in exchange for reduced monthly retired pay until that service member reaches their full Social Security retirement age, which for most of us is 67 years old. On a subsequent slide, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the lump sum, so I'll switch to the next slide. So you see this graphic shows on the top of it what a relatively typical career might look like in generic numbers. As you see on the gray bars, show a 20-year career for an enlisted member, although this applies to officers as well. So a member's pay increases over those 20 years, at which point the 20th year they decide to retire. Under a regular retirement, that member would immediately begin receiving a monthly retired paycheck the following month after they retired, all the way through the end of their life. At the bottom, you see lump sum, and I'm going to show the graphic about how the lump sum will play out. The law stipulates that the lump sum will be based on the discounted net present value of the portion of a member's retirement pay from when they retire until they reach full Social Security age. So for the purposes of discussion here, we're going to talk about a 20-year period and assume that this person retires at about the age of 47. So you look at the 20 years between when they retire and age 67, and then take the discounted net present value of 50% of those paychecks over that 20 years. And that results in a 50% lump sum for that member. In addition to receiving the lump sum payment of a portion of their retired pay, the member continues to receive their monthly annuity, 50% of what they would have otherwise received for those 20 years until they reach full Social Security retirement age at age 67. Once they hit that age, 67, their annuity reverts back to the full amount that it would have otherwise been. The next slide shows the lump sum option for a reservist, and it's just quick to point out or to show how the reserves differ, and this does not change from the current retirement system, but it's always worth reiterating, is that a non-regular retirement for reserve component members, even after they complete their 20 years of service, they go into what we call the gray area, where they do not receive a monthly retired pay until they hit the age of 60 or a lesser age if they have creditable service. So that number can vary for each individual member, but is generally in the late 50s to age 60, at which a reserve component member begins receiving their retired pay. So similar to the regular retirement, on a non-regular retirement, a reserve component member would receive the discounted net present value of that portion of their retired pay from when they retire until age 67. So they take 50% of that amount into a lump sum that's received at age 60 or when they're eligible to receive retired pay. They then receive a reduced pension for the next 7 years, at which time their retired pay reverts back to the full amount. So the next slide talks about implementation timeline. As I said earlier in the brief, the blended retirement system was enacted by Congress in the National Defense Authorization Act in November of 2015. And you can see approximately where we are in the calendar in September of 2016. Since enacting by Congress, we've implemented leader training, which began on June 1st. That's an online JKO-based course, which Kim will talk about in a second. In September of this year, we're also going to be releasing another course, which Kim will talk about in a second. The key date on this calendar to look at is January of 2017, when opt-in training begins. In January of 2017, every member who's identified as eligible to opt in will be able to take online training that will assist them in making the decision of whether they will remain under their current retirement system or opt into the blended retirement system. And that course is going to include the ability to do online comparisons of the current retirement system as well as the blended retirement system. December 31st, 2017 is the date upon which eligibility for blended retirement system is established. I talked briefly about that earlier, and I can discuss if there's any questions for clarification. January 1st, 2018 is when blended retirement goes into effect. There'll be a one-year opt-in window, as you can see on the slide, from January 1st to December 31st, in which eligible members will have the opportunity to go online and make their election of whether they want to opt into blended retirement system. After 2018, all new accessions who join the service after that date will automatically be covered by blended retirement. So at this point, I'm going to turn over the discussion to Kim, who's going to discuss our training and education aspects of blended retirement.
Great. Thank you, Andy. As mentioned, the Leader course did launch on January 1st. The attendance in that course is very, very good, and we continue to encourage folks to go ahead and take a look at that course. As we are looking to update it, as policy may be tweaked, as changes come about, and as new resources become available. That course will not disappear. It will be a living, breathing course that will continue to be revised as blended retirement continues to develop. The next course that we are planning to launch within the next few weeks, we are in our final stages of development, is the Financial Counselor Educator course. This course is primarily designed to assist our personal financial managers at the installations, our veteran service officers, military service organizations that support military service members with financial education, as well as the military one-source financial counselors. I would encourage anyone that works in that role to take a look at the course when it becomes available. It will be also located on the JKO website, as well as a link available through the Military One-Source website. Following Financial Counselor Educator course will be the opt-in course. This will be the bread and butter for most of our service members as they're looking to make that decision to opt in. Now, the focus of the opt-in course is to educate service members to understand the BRS. It is not necessarily geared to force them or change their mind or direct them in one way or another, because the position of the DoD is that it's an individual decision. We do not necessarily take a stance on whether someone should opt into BRS or not, and that's what this course is designed to do, is to help you look at all of the factors that you need to consider whenever you're making the decision on whether to opt in. Following the opt-in course will be the newest session course beginning in January 2018 for all new service members. This course will be designed to educate service members on the blended retirement system and will be required for them to take within the first year of their service time frame. Now on this, we've listed out 4 courses for you for over the next year and a half time frame, but we don't want you to think that this is the be-all, end-all. Similar to this webinar, we are looking at other educational strategies to make sure that we're educating our service members and their families on the blended retirement system so that everyone has the most available information, current and accurate information, to make the best decision for them, their families, and their financial future as they approach retirement. So I appreciate your time in attending this course today, and please, if you do have questions, do know that that doesn't end when this webinar ends as well. I'm going to turn it back over to Andy to finish up on a little more information, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Earlier today, I talked about the opt-in eligibility and who would be eligible to enroll in blended retirement and who is not. So it's important to look at, for opt-in eligibility, this continuum that we've displayed on the slide. So remember the date of December 31st, 2017. We have to think about each individual circumstances a little bit differently. So I would take each individual and ask them to walk through their own eligibility chart to determine whether or not they will be eligible to opt into the blended retirement system. So the first question to ask is, are you serving as of December 31st, 2017? If you are, then as of December 31st, 2017, are you active component? And if so, do you have fewer than 12 years of service? Meaning, did you join the service in 2006 or later? Or if you're a reservist, do you have fewer than 4,320 retirement points as of that date? If the answer to those is yes, or one or the other is yes, then you're in the eligible opt-in population, and you'll take the mandatory blended retirement system opt-in training that Kim just discussed that begins in calendar year 2017. You take that training during 2017 and then use all other available resources such as financial counselors, education products, discussing with your family or any other people you go to for advice for such things. And then in 2018, you'll have the opportunity to make your decision. In 2018, you can either choose to opt into the blended retirement system or do nothing and stay covered under your current system. So to summarize the blended retirement system benefits, Kim said it well, which is that the decision to opt in is the members only, and I think that's the bumper sticker statement to emphasize on this slide. The DoD has no preference as to whether a member chooses to opt in or not. We recognize that everyone's individual system is different, and everybody should make a choice based on their own information and their own preferences. You see a lot of the benefits listed by the check marks here. A couple of things I'd like to briefly mention. The blended retirement system does not change when a member is eligible to retire. As I said about reservists, your eligibility is still based on 20 years of creditable service and reaching the age of 60 or a reduced age if you have creditable active service. And for active duty members, it still requires 20 creditable years of service before being eligible to retire. Members covered by BRS are still eligible to participate in the survivor benefit plan. And reservists covered by the blended retirement system are still eligible for reduced age retirement if they perform qualifying service. Finally, a few closing thoughts. There's no single right answer as to which retirement system is better. Both the legacy retirement system, which we often call High 3 system, and the blended retirement system have advantages and disadvantages based on a service member's particular circumstances. Those members who have the option of choosing the retirement system should base their decision entirely on their own circumstances after completing the training and taking advantage of all the information and resources available. For some, staying under the legacy retirement system will make sense. For others, the blended retirement system will be the preferable option. So we've run relatively quickly through these slides, but I do want to open this up for any questions that might be out there regarding blended retirement, and we'll do our best to answer those in a live format.
All right, thanks, Andy. We do have questions that have come in. The first question reads, if I elect to opt in the new blended retirement system, can I change my mind later?
No, that's a good question. The decision to opt into blended retirement system, once you make it, is an irrevocable decision. So once you go online, and for most members that will likely be through their MyPay account on the DFAS website, once you go online to make that opt-in decision, that becomes an irrevocable decision, and you have been switched to the blended retirement system. You can't go back to the old system once you've made the choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Next question reads, what if I have a break in service? Can I still opt into the blended retirement system?
Yes, as long as you were serving or have served at any point prior to December 31st, 2017, if you re-enter the service later, whether it's in calendar year 2018 or even after that, if you had served prior to the cutoff date, December 31st, 2017, you will have the option of electing to enroll in the blended retirement system. So, yes.
Okay. If I opt in, do I have to wait the 60 days to start receiving government contributions?
No, the government contributions would start at your next pay period if you opt in.
Okay. Next question reads, I'm a government employee and in the reserve. Can I contribute to both TSP accounts?
You can contribute to both TSP accounts if you're a civilian and a reservist, but you're still subject to the same annual limits that are imposed by the IRS on how much you can contribute and how much your employer can contribute. So those are essentially combined totals. But yes, you can contribute separately from both your reserve pay and your civilian pay.
Okay, let's see. Where can I get in touch with those who can help me with my decision to opt in or not? I'm interested in seeing if it could benefit me.
Absolutely. So at Installations, you have personal financial managers that are trained, that will be trained through the Financial Counselor and Educator course, but also may have some information that they can share with you to begin assisting you as you're looking at these options. Military OneSource also has highly qualified personal financial counselors that are available 24/7, and you can contact them, and they will assist you in information on the blended retirement system as well. We also have articles and information located on the Military OneSource website, as well as the blended retirement system website for your use.
Okay. Next question reads, CSB Redux is a retirement plan. As final pay in high 3, when will CSB Redux stop officially, and what will be the last day a service member can apply for it? I have been reading and watching the BRS since last year, and no one mentions it.
That's a great question. The law stipulated that CSB, which is the career status bonus that a member on active duty could elect at the 15-year point, a cash payment in exchange for an agreement to reduce their retirement benefits once they fully retire at age 20, at year of service 20. The career status bonus in the Redux program sunset, according to the law, on December 31st, 2017. So that means after that date, no one will be able to elect the career status bonus. So from now until December 31st, 2017, the CSB is still an option. It is still a retirement plan, just like the high 3 or the final pay retirement plans, but will go away, in essence, after December 31st, 2017.
Thank you. Next question reads, if a service member is in the new blended retirement system and retires after 20 years, will they still get an annuity?
Yes. That's referred to as the defined benefit, and I may have used that term interchangeably throughout the brief. So you have the blended retirement system blends multiple components, both the defined benefit, or what most people commonly refer to as their retirement pay, with the TSP contributions and a member's own TSP contributions to their own account. So yes, it's still the largest component of blended retirement will be the defined benefit or the annuity or the pension that a military member receives for life after they've achieved 20 years of service. But blended retirement brings in some other components such as TSP and government contributions to your TSP account.
Okay, before I read the next question, I just want to mention to the audience there are several people asking for the slides. The slides are actually in the platform under downloads, and you can click the link and download the slides. So you should be able to access that within the platform without having to send me your email and me send you the slides back. So you should be able to, it's in our handout section on the side panel. The next question reads, how can soldiers or their families take training?
That's a great question as well. Currently, training is available through Joint Knowledge Online, or JKO. They do have a web-based platform as well as an app that is available. Currently, the leader training is available. Soon to be coming on the website is the Financial Counselor Educator course, followed by the opt-in course, as well as the webinars that we're providing here through Military OneSource, and then we are looking at other social media outlets to utilize for educational components.
Okay. Next question reads, I'm in the ROTC now and have signed my contract. Do I fall under the legacy program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we didn't touch it on this brief, but I'm glad it came up. Members who are in the ROTC or the service academies or the delayed entry program, they make an agreement with the government to begin serving when they sign that piece of paper. So for the purposes of blended retirement, they're considered to be serving as of the point at which they make that agreement. So they'll have the same option as everybody else who's in that eligible population to opt in or to stay with the legacy retirement system once they actually come on active duty. And that, from some of our ROTC and our academy personnel, could be several years down the road. But because they signed that agreement, as you said in the question, prior to the cutoff date, which is December 31st, 2017, they're considered to have contracted to serve at that point, and therefore are covered by the legacy retirement system by default. They'll still have the opportunity to opt in like everybody else, and that may actually be several years down the road when they ultimately get commissioned.
Okay, next question. How long does a member of the IRR or standby reserve have to opt in once in pay status?
If a member in the IRR comes into a pay status during calendar year 2018, they would have the remainder of calendar year 2018 to opt in. If they come into a pay status for the first time after 2018, they should have 30 days to make their decision once they enter a pay status. Because our IRR and our standby reservists are considered to be serving, but because they're not in a pay status, they may not have the opportunity to make their blended retirement system election during calendar year 2018. So if an IRR member otherwise meets the criteria, meaning that they were serving in the military prior to December 31st, 2017, they're eligible to opt into blended retirement, but they have to wait until they're back in a pay status. So whether that's in 2018 or the first time is after 2018, they will have the option of choosing the retirement system.
Okay, next question reads, when will the retirement and lump sum calculators be ready?
Those calculators are still in development, and they are expected to be ready in January 2017.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Does the mid-career bonus apply to both officers and enlisted?
Yes, certainly it applies to everybody who meets the eligibility criteria, and so that would be officers and enlisted.
Okay. Next question reads, will the lump sum take at retirement be taxed?
Yes, it would be subject to tax, and that's an important consideration in much education will be put out eventually about that, but I think that will be an important consideration for service members to understand that if they take a lump sum option of their retirement pay, that they will pay taxes on that, and that may push them into a different tax bracket than they otherwise would be in. It's just an important consideration our service members will have to understand when they're making that choice at retirement.
Okay, next question reads, will new service members be automatically enrolled into TSP when entering after January 1st, 2018?
Yes, because all members who join after January 1st, 2018 will automatically be covered by blended retirement. That means they're automatically full participants in TSP. So when they come into service, they will be enrolled at 3% contribution of their pay into TSP. Now, a member always has the option to change their contribution levels, and they can adjust it however they prefer. They can go higher than 3% or they can go lower. On entry, those new accessions will be automatically enrolled in TSP, and they'll begin contributing at 3% from their first paycheck after they've joined the service.
Okay, next question reads, it was a little confusing. Can you give an actual dollar amount examples? I guess they were referring to one of the slides that you were speaking on.
Yeah, I would imagine they're probably referring to the lump sum slide, and that is obviously that's an important question because we're talking about potentially large sums of money. I can't really give a dollar figure because with any retirement, it's always variables, the number of years of service, your pay grade at retirement, the number of years you've been in that pay grade, what the pay charts corresponding to your number of years of service say. So it would be difficult to give an exact example, but I will say that the potential amounts are fairly substantial, and I think that could be a great benefit to a number of service members. They'll have the opportunity to take those lump sums that they choose and potentially use that money to pay off their house or start a business or spend larger amounts of money than they would normally have that opportunity. So I can't give an exact dollar figure, but the lump sum calculators that will be part of the opt-in training that comes out in January will provide those sort of more specifics tailored to each individual's personal circumstances, and they can adjust based on expected rates of return, et cetera, to get a sense of what that lump sum option might be.
Okay. Next question reads, for members serving beginning January 1, 2018, they receive 1% automatic agency contribution. Will that be in traditional TSP? And members can choose to contribute to Roth, but matching contributions would go into traditionals, correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. A member can choose, by default, their contributions will go into a traditional TSP account. The member can choose to switch to a Roth TSP account, but any government contributions will still go into a traditional.
Okay. Next question reads, with new BRS, you talk about legacy retirement system being high 3. What about CSB Redux? Will that be obsolete, or is it still an option for those who will be eligible in the interim?
It is still an option for those who are eligible between now and December 31st, 2017. So if you're hitting your 15-year point, which is when you have to make a decision on CSB Redux, you still have the option now of electing the CSB. But once elected, that would prevent a member from later opting into blended retirement system, because once you've received that career status bonus, you would no longer be eligible to opt into the blended retirement system. Now, after December 31st, 2017, the career status bonus will go away, and so there will be no longer an option there. But that option does still exist between now and then.
Okay. Next question reads, have you considered making it mandatory for the spouse to sign a form of acknowledgement on the decision similar to the survivor benefit plan?
I assume that's referring to electing to opt into blended retirement system, but I would say no. In general terms, a member's retirement, any decisions about their retirement are for the member to make. And we would expect members to make those decisions in concert with their family and their spouse, but there's not a requirement that their spouse acknowledge the choice to elect to opt into blended retirement system.
Okay. Next question reads, how is the lump sum taxed?
Marginal tax rate.
The lump sum will be taxed like any other earned income, so it just adds on to your gross income. So it is treated as a regular income that you'd receive, and then that would be based on the IRS tax tables.
Okay, thank you. With the BRS and with the kicker at 12 years, how does the TSP affect the final dollar amount? Or is this a separate amount that is not included in the retirement benefit amount at retirement age?
If I can understand the question, I think the person was asking whether the continuation pay is considered part of the total retirement package. The answer to that is no. Continuation pay is an in-career incentive or bonus to continue serving. Now, if a person were to take their continuation pay bonus and put it into their TSP, they could defer it for retirement, but for practical terms, continuation pay is an in-career incentive to continue serving, is not considered part of your retirement package.
Okay, next question. Will there be an availability to get the continuation pay and or the lump sum retirement pay into the TSP account?
Continuation pay is a form of bonus of regular military pay, so can be put into TSP. I don't believe that a lump sum payment of your retired pay can be rolled over into TSP. But that would be something a person would definitely want to talk to a financial counselor to discuss further, because there are complicated rules and regulations with what can and cannot be contributed to a 401k type account.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. As a reservist, why if over 4,000 plus points can't opt in?
The law that enacted the blended retirement system specifically included that caveat that would open up the decision to any member with 12 years of service or up to 12 years of service. And it specifically said for reserve members to compute that 12 years of service based on a particular section of the law. And that section of the law is how we calculate total retirement points when determining a reserve component member's retirement. So if you figure 4,320 divided by 360 is 12 years. So that 12 years of service is calculated to be 4,320 points.
Okay. Next question reads, if a service member stays in the legacy retirement system and has been contributing to TSP, will they still be able to contribute to TSP?
Yes, absolutely. TSP will still be an option for all our service members. Those who remain covered under the legacy retirement system will still have that option of contributing from their own pay to TSP, and we would, of course, encourage that. The only difference is they would not receive the automatic government or the matching contributions from the government.
Okay, thank you. If I have both a traditional and a Roth TSP, will both get matched?
What?
No, your actual account doesn't get matched. It's the amount that you put into it. So if there was a way to split your own contributions from your pay to a traditional, part to a traditional and part to a Roth, which I don't know if there is or not, but assuming there is, you would still only receive the match on what you put in. And there's a chart on one of the slides. A member contributes 3%. They receive a 3%, a 3% match from the government. Whether that goes into a traditional or a Roth IRA is not related to the amount you get in a match.
Okay, next question. If I transfer from one DoD military service to another, i.e. Navy to Army, does the time from one service to the other carry over, or would the clock start from the beginning?
No, the time carries over when you convert from one component to another. But if you're talking about eligibility for certain bonuses and pay, there are some distinct differences between transferring from reserve to active. So that's something you might want to ask a little bit more question of either your services financial experts to get a little bit better understanding of what happens if you were to go from reserve component to full-time active component, converting essentially. But when it comes to switching from, say, the Air Force to the Navy, nothing would change. You would still be credited with that time, just like you are currently.
Next question. When will the financial staff at FFSC get that
service? That requires you to contribute to it. It's a contributory annuity that you pay into as a retired person. And when you die, that, like any other life insurance, then becomes paid out to your loved one, your spouse, your children, as an annuity. The exact rates and the premiums that will be charged will vary based on the reduced amount of retirement pay that you would be receiving, 2.5 to 2%, and also with regard to the lump sum, there'll be some changes to how the SBP premiums are calculated, and that's still in development. But survivor benefit will still be an option for service members under blended retirement, just as it is under the legacy retirement system.
Okay, next question. For a real life example, if I have an E3 that's been in for 3 years and opt in, and then decides to leave the military after 10 years, how much money will he be able to leave with if he puts in the max amount?
It's a good question, and I think that's one that's best left to the individual taking the training that's going to be available beginning in January and using the online calculators to get an example of what they could be leaving the service with after 10 years. There's so many variables in that it's difficult to talk about that without knowing every aspect of a person's individual situation. And that's why these are very tailored, individualized choices we have to make. So every person should do the calculations on their own, and we're going to provide the tools to help you do that. But we can't make generalizations about how much money you would have. There's just so many different options. How much you contribute, what the anticipated market returns would be over those number of years, what your pay is 10 years from now or 7 years down the road. So I'd encourage those members to use the online calculators, do multiple runs with them, different examples to see what different settings they can change to maximize their own returns, and make their decision based on the most information they have available.
Thank you. Next question reads, If you are over 20 years but not yet retired, can you still take the lump sum?
No. You can only take the lump sum when you're at your retirement. So over 20 years, whether you decide to retire right at 20 years or at 22 or 25 years, you'll be given the option of taking the lump sum at your retirement. And in fact, you have to make the decision 90 days prior to retiring in order to complete the paperwork and make the transfers to DPAS to arrange for those payments. But that's a one-time decision at your retirement. So even if you're over 20 years, if you want to continue serving, you'll continue serving, but you won't have the lump sum option until you retire.
Okay, next question. Have you considered follow-on training at intervals throughout a service member's career, such as each re-enlistment decision?
Absolutely. That's actually part of the NDA within the touch points, and so training is being looked at with our subject matter expert to account for some of those major life events. So we're talking about PCS changes, promotions, changes in family or marital status. All of those major career points will come along with education. Our courses right now are specifically focused on assisting a service member and family understand what blended retirement is so that they can make the best educated decision on that opt-in choice. But you can be rest assured that more education will be coming as it impacts those touch points in a service member's career.
Thank you. Next question reads, trying to figure out the benefit. How is TSP included in the retirement with the BRS?
Well, TSP becomes a aspect of the blended retirement system because the government will be contributing for the first time to a member's retirement accounts in TSP. So unlike in the current system where if you serve for 20 years you receive retirement, there's no government portion of that TSP. So TSP, while you can contribute to it, is not part of the benefit package provided by the government to you as a service member for your retirement. But under blended retirement, TSP becomes an aspect of your retirement. It's blended into the retirement system because the government is contributing to that account along with you.
Okay, let's see. What is the calculation for the lump sum?
The calculation of the lump sum is based on the net present value, which is a technical economic term. But essentially what will happen is that a member's retirement pay for that period of time from when they retire until they reach full retirement age, which is defined by the Social Security Administration, for most of us is about age 67. That amount of money is calculated and then is discounted to its present value and then paid out as a payment at retirement as a lump sum. So Stan, I think after that question, we probably have time for about 2 more questions.
Okay. Yeah, because we are close to the top of the hour, and I was just thinking the same thing. So let me just scroll down here to the bottom to where some of these questions just came in. Let's see here. All right. Where on the Military One Source? Oh, well, that's the Military One Source. The question was where on the Military One Source will the recording be available? It'll be available on the archive section under the webinars webpage. Let's see. When will the financial? Nope, that question has been. It says time fall in. Example PEBD 13 years, BASD 10 years, and 3,700 retirement points. Can that SME opt in?
I think the number that matters there is if you're talking about retirement points, you're talking about retirement points for reservists. But you brought up basic active start date, which complicates things.
Yeah, let me start with the beginning of the question because I guess when I was scrolling up, I didn't see the full question. It states, which category do service members with reservist and active time fall in? And then he gave the examples about the PEB 13 years and the BASD 10 years with the 3,700 retirement points.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If the member is now on active duty, meaning they were on reserve duty prior, then is based on the date they first entered military service. They're what we call the Deems date, but that's if it's on or after December 31st, 2005, they would be eligible. So for active components, solely based on number of years, 12 years, for eligibility to opt in. For reservists, it's based on points. So for the reserve member, the date they began serving in active duty wouldn't matter. If they're now in the reserves, it's solely based on retirement points, fewer than 4,320 points.
Okay, let's see here. Does the mid-career bonus apply to both officers and enlisted?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Will agency and matching contributions be traditional contributions like the civilians?
Yes, agency and what we're calling the government matching and automatic contributions will go to a traditional TSP account, if that's what that's referring to, as opposed to a Roth. The member can choose to use Roth accounts, but the contributions from the government will come to the traditional accounts, just like on the civilian side.
Okay.
So if that's the last question,
yes,
definitely appreciate this opportunity to talk about blended retirement. We hope that this has been informative and appreciate all of these very educated questions and appreciate your time. And Kim, do you want to add anything else?
No, thank you all for attending. We do appreciate your input. It does help us as we're moving forward strategically to look at our education plans and how we best can serve our service members and families in the future. If you want more information on the blended retirement system, the web page is on militarypay.defense.gov/blended retirement. And from that page, you can find our information graphics and more information as it pertains to the blended retirement system is updated regularly as new products become available.
And I would like to take this time to thank Andy and Kim for presenting and sharing their invaluable expertise. I would also like to thank our attendees as well for participating in today's webinar. And if for some reason your question wasn't answered during the time that was allowed, please email moswebinars@militaryonesource.com, and we'll send the questions over to our presenters, and then we'll get an answer back to you as soon as we can. This concludes today's webinar on the Uniformed Services Blended Retirement System. Thank you all for attending, and have a great day.